Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert. I'm author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have Miss Brigitte Bojkowszky with me. Good morning
Good
or
morning,
afternoon for
Kimberly.
you,
Yeah.
coming from Austria.
Yes, so over the pond, right?
Yes, over the pond. So just so people can get to know you, I'm going to go ahead and read your bio and then we'll have a conversation. So, Brigitte Bojkowszky, Ph.D., is the visionary founder of BridgetBrands and a distinguished global and personal brand identity strategist with a remarkable career spanning over 23 years of teaching global marketing and management and branding at universities across the globe and extensive experience in the corporate world. She possesses a treasure trove of knowledge and expertise. Brigitte offers a unique array of services, including exclusive one-on-one training workshops, digital courses, challenges, and retreats. With a captivating blend of expertise, experience, and a passion for brand excellence, Brigitte is a sought-after authority who guides entrepreneurs and organizations toward their brand's radiant future. Her mission is to craft captivating brand identities that radiate beauty, brilliance, and authenticity, ultimately attracting the clients and recognition her clients truly deserve. Brigitte is the host and producer of BrandsTalk, a must listen podcast for brand enthusiasts. On the show, she converses with thought leaders, CEOs, business owners, and experts, sharing invaluable firsthand insights and brand stories. With a PhD in social and economic sciences, specializing in international marketing and management from WU-Vienna, Austria, Brigitte boasts impeccable academic credentials. Her journey also includes a master's in business administration and education, along with certifications in communication, conflict management, leadership, women entrepreneurship from Cornell, and design thinking workshop from Harvard University. In her early career as a head flight attendant, Brigitte honed her leadership skills and gained a deep understanding of exceptional customer service. She has carried these invaluable lessons into academia and the private sector, further enhancing her credibility and authority. Brigitte is not just an accomplished strategist, but also an international best-selling author. Her book, Significant Women, Leaders Reveal What Matters Most, sheds light on her personal journey and the transformation of pain into purpose. Well, I am so happy to have you here and very excited to hear your story. So just so people can get to know you, why don't you tell us a little bit how you started out? Because you started out like as a flight attendant, and then how you got to be doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for this introduction. Awesome to hear someone else talk about it. It's really nice. So for having me. So I'm really excited about telling my story, how I came about to do what I'm doing right now. But it all started many years ago. I think 30 years, more than 30 years ago, as a flight attendant. This was my childhood dream to become a flight attendant. I always wanted that. I didn't look beyond, but I just wanted to be up there in the air and see the world and get to know other mentalities and cultures. And that's what I did for 5 years. I flew for Niki Lauda. Niki Lauda is a former Formula One car race driver, and he started his airline here in Austria. And I was one of the, let's say in the first years when he started out, we were growing exponentially with small planes, then bigger Boeings, and then really the large aircrafts flying what about from Austria to Bangkok, to Miami, to Los Angeles, to Sydney, to Hong Kong, and all the different tropical islands where we stayed for a week sometimes because there was only one flight a week. So we had to stay there. Poor us.
Wonderful.
Yeah, this can be sometimes also extensive because, if you go there like every other week and you're sitting there, sometimes it's raining all the time. It's also not so much fun because you're getting used to it. even though other people pay like, they have to save money for a year to just go somewhere. For us, it was just normal life to go back and forth all the time. So it was exciting. It was very exciting. But after a while, you climb the career ladder, you become chef de cabine, you're responsible for such a big aircraft, but still, I was not intellectually challenged. I always thought there needs to be more. And there was an end date, because when you hit the age of 32, and then he extended it to 30, I think 36 it was, your contract terminated because you became too old. He wanted young, beautiful flight attendants to walk through the aisle and serve passengers. Yeah. And I was a little afraid hitting that age and not knowing what comes after, right? And also, I was not challenged anymore. I thought there needs to be more in life. Even though it was a beautiful life and living, and staying at these beautiful hotels and seeing the world and getting to know different cultures and mentalities and learning about, and here the branding comes in, about different brands that are strong in Southeast Asia, in Australia, in the US, in Europe, here and there. And bringing innovations back to Europe. It was just not something that was, something usual, that you have had a, let's say, a telephone that was, no, how do you call that, portable. We didn't have that, so we just brought it back to Europe. So all these kind of, advancements, we always lagged a little bit behind here, and it was exciting. But anyway, so I decided after a while there needs to be more, so I started studying. It was a hard decision to make because there was no study and flying. I had to decide, and there was no going back. And I didn't know if I had the brains doing that. So I just jumped. I jumped into becoming a student. I didn't know whether it works out or not. And everyone was like, oh my God, she's not going to have the brains. She wants to come back. But I had the brains. I had very good brains. And I was discovering this hunger for learning, and this stayed with me through the rest of the last 3 decades. And I think I will drop dead with it. I'm just, this permits, it's really this hunger for continuous learning and growth and going the extra mile, and not jumping ship, but when you feel like there needs to be more, you close the door and another one is going to open. I had to pivot several times in my life. When you fly and you stop that and you start as a student, it's kind of a clean slate and you just start all over again. Because what would you do otherwise? I didn't have a track record in any other industry. I had a good education. I did business school, but technology and time, it's all changing. The know-how that I had back then did not help me anymore. So what am I doing? Yeah, so studying, and I did my master in business education and international marketing and management. So I also became a teacher, a certified teacher. I was doing that because I thought, if I will not be successful in the private sector, I still can go back to school and teach there. Was my fallback option. Yeah. And then I worked for different companies. I actually wanted to go back to the airline, but it was mergers and acquisitions. It was really a turbulent time at that time. So there was no going back into corporate because they rather fired than hired. So I had to pivot here and did that. After 2 years, they opened a position at the International Marketing and Management Department at the university for going for a PhD. So I applied and I got that spot. And then I did my PhD in international marketing and management. So that was my major focus. And then teaching global brand management and consumer behavior and global strategic management. So everything that has something to do with being strategic. So I'm not the person that executes. I'm not coming from an advertising agency. I was always the strategist. I always was in creating and building. And that's what I love. That's where my passion is. And also it's when you are flying as a flight attendant for 5 years, you start reading people. You really start becoming good at it. You anticipate their desires, their needs, their pain, pain also being up in the air, maybe feeling uncomfortable, or, so you just can relate to them. And then And I learned to offer these exceptional experiences for customers, because when you can anticipate, you have this better understanding what they want, you feel into them, you are empathic, you're even compassionate with people, and then you know what needs to be done. And that's what I carried into all other walks of life. And that's what I also now can use as a brand identity strategist, to feel into people and to help them create an identity that they can see themselves in, but also relates to their clients. So this was halfway through, and then I was back in corporate I worked for a real estate development company. And then in 2008, the financial crisis hit. We went bankrupt right away. And that was the time when I somehow, and this was really interesting, I lost the job. And with losing the job, I lost my identity, because I identified myself so strongly with that company. And at this point in time, I figured, hey, Bridget or Brigitte, that's my German kind of version of name. You need to have a personal brand, because you need to have something people can identify with you, detached from any other company. So because I was the head of market research, so that's Brigitte. But now there was not this how do you call that? I was not. There was not this relationship anymore, or I was not attached to that anymore, because the company did not exist anymore. So who I am, I was really questioning who I am now. And then I went on a deep dive, soul discovery mission, kind of, the first time in my life. So like really, I mean, it's not just reflecting and then figuring out what to do, really deeply going inside. What's the next step? But at that time, I was not ready yet for becoming an entrepreneur. And I was as a sideline teaching at the university, and they asked me, could you please take on more teaching load? And then I continued, and they added one more course, so that I was teaching at, I think, 4 or 5 different universities at the same time. And at the universities, you're not getting paid well here in Europe. And so I also had to make a living somehow. That continued until 2020. And in 2020, my contract, that was a permanent over 8 years, terminated. Because I was not a tenure track professor, I was a teaching professor, so a non-tenure track. And non-tenure is non-tenure. And it couldn't be prolonged because it's just a political system here. And I knew this is also the time when I want to start my business. And I prepared for that. I started slowly. And then in February 2020, I finished teaching. I still do on a side, but only particular things. And COVID rolled in. So I had to pivot again because the business model that I built up and that I wanted to roll out was not possible anymore, because I wanted to do workshops for companies and, walk in there and because that's something I really like, to work with people for 1 or 2 days in a row. And so that was not possible. And then I pivoted again, and yeah, my love to education and teaching and supporting people, will always be there. And I started my online business, doing workshops online, doing masterclasses online, running challenges online, and having my one-on-one clients over a period of time, which I very, very much enjoy, because I can work with people like directly and have my full attention on one person and helping them establish their brand on their entrepreneurial journey, or with a company, working with the executive team, building an identity that reflects who they truly are as a corporation, that is aligned with the people working there, because everything that resonates inside also is then resonating to the outside world, to their customers, to all of their stakeholders. And this is so beautiful, because I just love to work directly with my clients, with either individuals or with small teams. Because as a professor, you either have like 500 people in a room or 30 people. It's usually the classes are full and have waiting lists. And this was like more one way, even though I tried to have them, do case studies and work in international groups. But now I have the freedom to really choose. And that's what I love. Yeah. So this is in a nutshell, a long nutshell.
And that's one of the things that, I try to showcase on this podcast, is that you don't always start where you finish. In fact, most of the time we don't finish where we started. There's pivots. There's, you didn't just become a brand master in one day. There was steps to it. There was learning. There was experience involved along the way, just to get to do what you're doing now. Because if you started that, I don't know, 15 years ago, you could have taught people something, but having the experience you have, you're a treasure now, because you have all this behind you that you can help people with.
And this is really the beauty of it, because in retrospect, piecing together everything like a puzzle, all the experiences, the hard times, the challenges, where you didn't know what's gonna be the next thing, and looking into different walks of lives and trying out different let's say vocations, or doing different jobs. It enriches your life tremendously, and it all makes sense in retrospect. This is also another beauty, because if I would have started personal branding or branding in my early 20s, what is there of experience that I can provide? I went through this all. I went through all of that phases. And saying being authentic, but what does this really mean? There are so many layers of that there's so much richness in it. It's not just done to explain in one sentence what that is, putting something together. No, it's not. And you get a much better understanding. The older you get, the more you have experience that aligns with all of that, so you can live your ultimate purpose. It's just a different story. It's a different story. And that's what I'm really happy about, that all what I went through, the ups and downs, it's worth it at the end of the day. And we need to embrace everything. And I've got to know so many people that say, I did this, I shouldn't have done that, and this was a waste of time. But honestly, usually in all of these things, there is major learning that we take away. It's what makes us who we are, because we went through it. So that it really propels us forward. There is so much more in that, but people avoid looking at it because it hurts. Mm-hmm. And I think that is also the difficult thing when you're going in such a discovery, a self-reflection, like really taking yourself out. So I did that the second time during COVID. It was easier because the world was in a standstill position, right? Mm-hmm. So I took myself out. I went into a state where I was completely taking myself out of everything, and it was just into solitude. Let's say it like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it hurts. It hurts to go through all of that from childhood and through all the different phases and stages in life until you are there where you are. And that's several decades that sum up, right? Yeah. So here we are.
Exactly. But you're right. The pain, the struggles are all part of it. And think about when you've struggled with something and then you overcome it. That's a huge learning.
But you have to see it. You have to see it and really recognize that you have overcome, that this is a learning. And then we need to celebrate it. We need to celebrate it. Honor yourself, how far you have come, and being grateful for that. And this is what also a lot of people just skip. They always compare themselves with others. Oh my God, they have achieved this, they have achieved that, and they are much younger or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they had a different starting point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is your journey. This is your own one. It's nothing that can be comparable. And there is, when you compare yourself with others in your industry or in your category or even in your niche, there is enough people, yeah, that you can cater to. And there's not you're not fitting with, or you cannot relate to everyone. Yeah. So you have a special crowd that is waiting for you. And if you're not getting out there, you're actually doing a disservice to them. So there's enough abundance for everyone. And that's why competing, you use that wording because it's part of industry wording. But actually, you just try to, find your niche and position yourself uniquely in the market. And then you go from there. And let's roll it.
Yeah. And you just said a load of wisdom right there. If people just stopped comparing themselves and just stayed on their own journey, they would feel better. They would do better. They would shine in the marketplace when it comes to their profession, their career, or who they are. So.
Yeah, and it's not a myopic thinking when you focus on yourself. You're not talking about that and, disregarding everything else that is out there. Of course, you're scanning the market. You're scanning the geopolitical, happenings. Yeah, you look at what is the industry doing, what are others doing, but because you need to know how you fit in there, and you need to know how you position yourself. You need to know what's going on. You need to know what's coming up as a substitute that is kind of coming in from another industry into yours. You have to know that. Yeah, but still, it's about you, what you offer, and it's about the clients who need that. And that's what you need to understand, and you need to align that, bring that together.
Exactly. And, you were talking about several pivots from then till now. So I ask this often to people. So many times people are afraid to go into the unknown. It's like you said at first, well, I was going from flight attendant to college and I don't know if I had the brains to do it. And so many times we are in that spot where, okay, we have to transition to whether we choose it or we're forced to choose it. And there's doors of possibility in front of us. And we're like, I don't know if I could do any of this. So what did you do to kind of overcome your fear? Was there support around? Was it your own thinking?
The interesting thing, I never had a supporter in that way. People were always telling me, you are a head flight attendant. How can you just, I mean, this is a prestigious at that time, job. How can you just stop that? And you never know what's going to come. And, my parents were totally against it. They didn't talk to me at all anymore. So I was all alone. And I was like, no, I'm just done. I just don't want this anymore. Even though my heart was still there, but I knew I have to jump. I have to. There is no other way, because I was still very young, 25 of 26. But I knew if I wait longer, I'm becoming a frustrated older woman. And I didn't want to become that, and it was just that this was kind of that's what I thought, right? And I thought, and I owe it to myself to be the best possible version that I can already at that time, even though I didn't use that kind of wording, but I thought I owe it to life that I do something meaningful out of my life. And I'm not waiting for a guy who is going to marry me, who has a lot of money. No, because I've learned you have to come up with everything that you need by yourself as a woman as well. You never know what's going to happen. And then I end up somewhere. I did not want that. So there is I was risk averse in that respect, that I knew whatever I can do from my own doing. And this was kind of still playing safe, but I still was jumping, because I also knew what I'm capable of somehow. And then I did that. And then I did it several times. There was one time I didn't jump. And this was also a hard learning, because I was trying to fit in. I was trying to fit into the role as a professor. And it was like something, okay, are you doing it like until the end, until you retire, until the rest of your life? And I was like, no, I'm not this traditional person. I'm not dressed like that. I'm just not the person, not the traditional. I'm not fitting into a traditional system. I'm living this entrepreneurship spirit. I always had that. And that's why flying was so, because it's associated with a lot of freedom. You have a lot of freedom, and I like to make decisions. I like to own it. So that's what I do. And so I waited very long, and I molded myself into that, because I was older, and then people say, yeah, you're a professor and this is great. You're teaching others and empowering young people. But where does it leave me? And I felt like, I was not appreciated in terms of financial means. And then, so I was just not happy anymore. And I think people only react when the pain is so bad that there is no other way out anymore. And then you just run. And I just, didn't want this anymore. I didn't want to be in more pain than I already was. And so I was kind of almost there. And then sometimes, life nudges you anyway. And then, now it's time to do something. And I like to have it in my hands, and not that the universe or life is kicking you. And
True.
And it's never as bad as you think it's going to be, because when you have in your hands, you are navigating through this uncertainty, and and make it your new comfort zone, because you see when you make the first step, oh, actually, it's not as bad. Then you do the next step, But you have to be courageous. There is no other way to get out there. And I'm congratulating everyone who has a supportive system where people are behind, where they say, okay, I'm here for you and we support you. I mean, now I have my parents with me. Yeah. And the dynamics also changed. I knew if there is anything going bad, I know they're backing me up. Yeah. But in the early days, it was not so much the case. Yeah. But if you have a supportive system, then just try it. I think the one thing that we regret by the end of the day is the things that we are not doing. And I don't want to see myself in my deathbed regretting something. I rather learn hard than regretting, but usually it's not as bad as we think it is.
Exactly. So just so you can show your brilliance, because we've been talking about a lot of different things, let's talk about branding. Let's actually talk about branding, where your brilliance is. So talk about the basics of branding. What do we need to do?
Okay, so first of all, I think there is a misconception out there when it comes to branding. A lot of people reduce branding in a very narrow sense, reduce it to it's a logo and it's a name, it's maybe a tagline, or it's the colors, typography, these kind of things that express your brand tangibly on a website or whatever the physical evidence is, right? But branding is so much more. It really, really, really starts with mindset. Branding goes beyond this aesthetics. It starts with understanding who you are, either as a person, if it's about personal branding, if it's corporations or companies, institutions, about what do we stand for as a corporation or as a company, what do we want to communicate, and how we want to be perceived in the market. So it's all about creating an identity. And branding is shaping a certain perception in the market. So a certain, you are shaping what customers think, feel, and talk about you. And brand to brand is really something creating or eliciting a certain feeling in customers' hearts. So it's very, very emotional, actually, because we connect rather with emotions than with head. Very often when you want to remember something, you as a teacher, or someone who teaches others or empowers others, people remember better when you communicate that via examples through your heart. And then it goes up to the head. That's how they remember at the end of the day. I know that a lot of people make decisions based on mind, because then they start thinking, but they should rather go with the heart. Because at the end of the day, the hard decisions are always the right ones. So branding is very much about making a customer feel, hopefully, something positive. Otherwise, you do something wrong, right? So my slogan is branding starts with mindset. So if you are an entrepreneur, or if you want to build your personal brand and work at a company, you have an executive position, then it's about mindset first. It's about having a clear vision. Where do you want to be in the future? How do you get there? Having a mission. What is the higher purpose above making bottom line profits, right? It's about the purpose, and the purpose very much is related to a story. It's related to your own story. It's about your narrative, your history. It's about your learnings, or maybe your pain that became a purpose. So with mine, and the values that you live by. That's the fundament of where you build your brand. And that's why branding starts with mindset. And then you build your personal brand. It's all who you are. You're creating a personal brand persona of what it is here in the here and now. You do kind of a, you know, an analysis, situation analysis. Let's call it like that. It's throwing in a technical term, right? But you also want to know where you want to go. That's why a vision is so important, because you're creating what you want to become. And we are always becoming, we are always on the way. Yeah, we're adding on with every experience that we have. And that goes all into personal branding. It's your standards, it's your brand style, how you interact, how you work with people, how you communicate with people in all walks of life. And are there any differences? There's a lot of analysis going on, and then the interpretation. And you also get feedback from others. It's not only how you see yourself, but maybe you have some blind spots. Maybe there is some strength that you haven't even recognized there is, that you can bring in. And it becomes kind of full circle at the end of the day. And so here if you have this better understanding, you also have an understanding who you truly are and what makes you authentic. And then you communicate differently as an executive, but also then as an entrepreneur, because what you are as a solopreneur or as an entrepreneur in a small company, that will be the fundament of building your company or your business brand. Because you build your business around that, because usually you have a purpose that goes into your business. That's how you start. And then you go from there. And then you build your business brand identity with all the colors and everything. Yeah. But first there needs to be the meaning. Yeah. That should be very rich of what your business is, what needs you're gonna satisfy. And then also, of course, who is your ideal client? Where you, at the beginning, also for entrepreneurs, niching, being really very specific, because you cannot satisfy everyone's needs, because then you become very shallow. It's so who is she now? Yeah, what is she really doing? So you focus on something, and then you bring that together. So that the identity of who you are is what you're showing to the world, and the customer creates in their minds an image of you. They kind of reflect that. And that should be in sync, because once that is in sync, then you know you're doing a good job. Then your positioning is right in the market, and also in customers' minds.
Beautiful.
Is that
Yeah,
kind of something
really helpful? And I also wanted to find out more about your book. Tell us about your
it is a book written by 22 women, and it's about what makes them significant. It's about their life journey. And for me, it was all about, I wrote that chapter about myself when I was in this discovery journey on my mission, understanding myself. And I was kind of, when I started out with my company, and it was a healing work. I think writing is something healing. I don't know how you see that, Kimberly, but when I write, I heal myself. And there were a lot of magic moments, revelations and ahas and everything in there. And I was writing about, playing small, because I always felt like I'm not good enough and there is others so much better, because I was growing up in such an environment. My parents, hard workers, and and for me, I didn't understand why I should always play small, why I never was allowed to voice my opinion. I was like, nobody's interested in what you are saying, just do your job. I was like, why should I just do my job? But, this was always, there was an inner conflict going for your desires or just fit in. This was like always this thing. And then I'm the one, when it's becoming too much, then I need to break out. And then I just do something else. So I'm fighting with that usually for a long time, but there's a point of no return where enough is enough. And it was a harder learning just to own that, who I am and what I can bring to the world, and that I can make my own decisions. And there were other things, other pains in there that contributed to all of that. So, and I figured that there's a lot of people, and still I think it's more so women, because most of my clients are women, is they also went from this, they are not visible because they do not see themselves as someone really important. So I was like playing small, I was invisible. Mm-hmm. But I know there is something that I can bring to the world. So from an invisible expert becoming visible, yeah. The best kept secret is suddenly out there to help others, and I want to help others do the same. And that's why I resonate with a lot of people who have this, I feel not good enough, this imposter syndrome, you would call it as a doctor, right? Yeah. And once they understand, they have been living with limitations and with fear, and just overcoming that, and actually using fear as a catalyst to embrace that. Because it's something we are making up. It's not real. Mm-hmm. How can you, push through something? Or because we always say we're pushing through the fear, but it's something that it's an illusion. It's not really there because we are creating that, right? Someone else doesn't even see it. Okay. If I want to jump from a high-rise building, I mean, fear is if I'm just walking kind of there, and yeah, that is real fear, because you're going to be dead, right? But not something like that when you feel like you're not good enough, or you're a fear of failure or something. Yeah. And you can push through that. The limiting statements then become empowering statements. And this is also something that is part, a small part of also personal, of mindset. Yeah. So to adopting a business owner's mindset, coming from being an employee with a company or an organization, or also academia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of people also in the academia that want to start their own thing for diverse reasons.
So if people wanted to work with you, could you share maybe your website? How do people contact you? What services do you have?
Absolutely. So I have just let me pull that up very quickly. Mm-hmm. Because I'm running a masterclass January 9. It's called Ignite Your Brand, Your Entrepreneurial Roadmap to Branding Excellence. And it's for free, so people can come and join. They just need to register for it. And then I'll talk about entrepreneurship and why branding is so important, and why branding has to be done really early on that journey. So I have my own 3-step branding blueprint for entrepreneurs that I put together on decades of research, and that helps them, and I walk them through that too. And that's what I also do in my 3 months one-on-one exclusive coaching. And I also have a free download. It's the Entrepreneurial Branding Starter Kit. People can download that on my website, BridgetBrands.com. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. So it's also there. There's a button to download that for free. Yeah, and also run challenges, the Embody Your Brain Challenge that goes over 3 days. that's also nice because over 3 days you get a little homework and then people get to know me how I work. So that's also something where then people decide, okay, I want to do this master your entrepreneurial brand 3 months program. That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And of course, for corporations, I help them with creating their brand identity and aligning personal and organizational values to create a culture that they all can embrace.
Okay, so now I have a personal question for you. What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Right now is when my clients say, wow, yeah. And when I see, it's almost like it is like brings me to tears when they say, wow, this was great, or I've learned so much and now I understand, and this is so exciting. And I love that homework, even though it's a lot, I see how they evolve and their development over their personal development, but also when I see how much clarity they get about themselves, and then how things are unfolding and falling into its place. That is something that I just love, 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 love. Yeah.
Beautiful. You truly have the heart of a teacher. I think that's what teachers live for, is just to see their
Yeah.
students glow and
Yeah.
blossom, and you're doing that with business people.
Yeah. 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 But I also have a private life. I love to travel. So that's something I'm gonna start again now next year. And I love to work out, and I have a punching bag at home. So I just love to kick and punch. So this is how I knock myself out, and I just love it.
Sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for sharing all your wisdom and your stories and your experience. So thank you so much.
I thank you so much for having me, and I really hope there are some nuggets of wisdom in it that people can take away, and they should just get in touch with me. And yeah, also if they're interested, we can hop on a 20-minute call and just have a conversation, a virtual coffee.
Sounds wonderful. So I have one last question before we finish. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Take it into your own hands and do not let others define you. Write your narrative and live it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bridget. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you.